Good morning and welcome you all. And my special welcome to Mataji Swamini Shivapriyananda. And she's going to speak on peace. And peace is intimately connected with Shiva, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam. And today's day, the song was on Shiva, Shivoham, Shivoham. And Mataji Shivapriyananda. And her center, Chinmay Mission Center in Toronto, is called Shivalaya. So it's a day of Shiva, day of peace, and she's going to speak on peace in this restless world. To introduce Swamini Shivapriyananda, some of you know her. She had been a very long time in Toronto and serving at the College of Vedanta in Chinmay Mission. Swamini Shivapriyananda is the senior Acharya for Chinmay Mission Toronto Shivalaya. Inspired by Swami Chinmayananda, Swamini Shivapriyananda completed the Brahmachari course in Mumbai in 1986 and was posted as Acharya of Chinmay Mission Toronto. She received sannyasa initiation from Swami Tejomayananda on Shivaratri in 2003. Swamini teaches adults and youth through lectures, seminars and workshops. Also, she conducts stress management courses as well as relaxation training. Swamini is an inspiration and guidance behind the success of Bala Vihar, the Sunday school of the Chinmay Mission Toronto. I welcome Swamini Shivapriyananda Mataji to give us a talk on peace in the restless world. Swamini Mataji.
And good morning, everyone. I feel greatly honored and humbled to be here with all of you in that serene, beautiful shrine of peace. Had I been here before, perhaps the topic would have been different, because it actually would disturb a beautiful creation of serenity that has been invoked here through the prayers, through meditation, and through all those hearts to gather here to uplift themselves to the highest state, that all-embracing peace and spiritual strength that is guiding and carrying this beautiful center here and many others across the world. But since we've chosen the topic, just a few thoughts I'd like to share. How much time do we have?
Until 12. Until 12 o'clock.
Until 12, okay. The other day, I was sitting in our ashram, which looks slightly different than this. It's big open space all around, and I looked through the window, and the branches of the broken trees were beating against the window, and the noise from all over was coming. Then the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and suddenly a very powerful voice started and said, "You again did it to me, and I'm not going to take it from you." I said, "Well, whom would you like to speak to? Who are you? Don't pretend, I want John." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not John." bam, was a wrong number, and I happened to be at the other end of the receiver. Then I thought, oh, this is around here, let me see what's happening in the world. So I put the radio on, as I had slight aversion to television, and it started with the situation in Russia and around there. Then there were few accidents here and there, and it continued. So actually, I didn't slap the radio, but I shut it off, and I chanted Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Because we all need to create a temple of serenity around us. As we look at the world, and actually the topic consists basically of three main words. The world, the restlessness, and peace. So the world, in Vedantic terms, we expound the term of the world beyond the buildings and mountains and rivers. And we look at the world from three different aspects. One is phenomenal world. What is it? It's the sun and the moon and the planets and different continents all acting together and operating based on the substance of five elements: the earth, water, fire, air, and space. All of them being gathered in a very intelligent way by the laws of nature. When we look at the world, we see the sun always rises at the east and sets in the west. All those scientific laws are operating in nature, and yet it's based on harmony, on strength and on beauty. But what we observe today is the restlessness. We all talk about global warming. We had rather brutal winter this year. But yet, still, you and I will not be upset at the fire. We know that the fire, the nature of fire, is heat. So when I put my finger into the fire, I will not curse the fire. What I will do instead, I'll be careful next time. And I still use fire for whatever it's meant to be. The same with water. There's floods all over. But we still use water, and we don't curse, we don't get upset with water. So the whole phenomenal world is based on strength, on harmony, on peace, and mutual support. But what we do observe and what we experience is the only beings in this universe who are us human beings have the power and have the ability to actually disturb the harmony and peace in nature. By what? By using our intellect in not the way it was meant, but driven by our selfishness, by our self-aggrandizing desires. So when we really look at it, the nature as such does not carry restlessness, but the restlessness is being brought by our behavior. In the name of Progress. What do we do in the name of progress? We abuse nature. And nature, in his loving, embracing act, is actually sending us different aids to wake us up and see, oh, perhaps we can do differently. Perhaps we can act differently. So this is basically the phenomenal world. But then closer to us is the social world. Social world that consists of nations, communities, families, and individuals. The social world is dynamic. It's far from being static. So it brings various energies. There is culture, there is beauty, there is arts. All of it consists together in one aspect of the social world. And what we find there, well, we all know. Put the TV on, read the paper, and everybody is complaining of what's happening in this world, isn't it? And we all of us, want peace, we want harmony, which can only be based on the interdependence between the phenomenal world, between the social world and individual world that you and I create. But when we really look what's happening right now, it's far from peace, far from harmony. We all complain, we are all shaken up and disturbed to a greater or lesser extent by the violence, by the law that's supposed to carry order, but it hardly does. We see all this happening, and we all want ethical, moral values to be around. We all want happiness, peace, prosperity. But when we look at ourselves, what we have to notice, and being honest with it, what do we read? What literature is the most popular? Sensational? What do we watch on TV? If you try to put a TV on at night, I don't have many channels, but sometimes as I go through them, there is the same topic everywhere. And we say we don't want killing. We oppose to killing, we oppose to violence. But somehow we are driven to those topics. And then when we really think about it, what actually is happening, that the world and individuals, you and I, actually it's only two sides of the same coin. The outside world depends on you and you and I depend on the world. And in Mahabharata, Mother Kunti, there is a beautiful dialogue of Mother Kunti and Yudhishthira. When he asks the question, is the world that creates the time, is the circumstances and opportunities that being given to us by the world? Are we the victims or masters of circumstances? And the Mother Kunti asked in a very beautiful, powerful way, saying that you and I Actually, it's being addressed to Yudhishthira, the ruling class. The times are being created by you. The circumstances and situations are being molded by you. So we are basically the masters. By no means we are victims. Then in Raja Prithu in Bhagavatam, the topic is being continued when the Raja Prithu says very clearly that there are three aspects that the Raja, the ruler, needs to take care of. These are his responsibilities. And one is protection, to bring security into the society. The other one is affluence. When people are satisfied, when their needs are satisfied, the society flourishes. And the most important, and this is actually a crucial point in our times, all of them are important, but this aspect is the most crucial. It's the education. Education of the new generations, young generations. Education, today when we look at education, what happens? First of all, the olden days, the schools and universities used to be temples of knowledge. We know what the campus projects itself as, what kind of energy is being projected out of the campus and what's happening in the campus. But the main problem here is, it's not the youth, it's not the behavior, it's the issue of education. We talk a lot about value-based education, but here, unless the education is being based very strongly and deeply on the principles of Dharma, that which upholds and protects the whole universe, we actually have no rights to talk about education. And Dharma, when the principles of Dharma are being installed in the hearts and lives of the youngsters, then this Dharma gives the direction which protects and guides throughout lives. Now you can say, oh, this is all addressed to the ruling class. How many rajas do we have today? But in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says it very clearly, addressing it to us, to you and I, that actually each one of us, in our big or little way, serves as a guide, serves as a role model to somebody. We all do. Being it at the workplace and guiding people, being it anywhere, and especially at home. You all, I'm just looking at the faces here, everybody seems to have experience of having children, raising children. And you know, when they are little, they look at us. They look at mom and daddy, and they are kings. They are royal kings and queens in a house. And then something changes. There was a family who actually shared a thought with me. They said, oh, you know, we have 2 children growing up in our house, eating the same food. They both are children, And one says, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to marry you only. The other one looks around, rolls his eyes, said, what is hell? I can't wait till I get out, and I definitely will not be staying home. I'll be staying at the campus. And then if we continue and thought, what happens first? They actually look up at the parents. Then as they grow up, and now it's happening sooner and sooner, earlier and earlier, they look at the parents and say, what do you know? Then another few decades pass, and then the same son comes to a father and said, oh Dad, I'm so proud of you. You really have matured a lot. So the roles are changing. But we don't know who is looking at us, from what direction, and when. To get some guidance, to get some inspiration, or perhaps will be heavily criticized. That also happens. But if we live the principles of Dharma, we are all leaders in our own way. Even if we don't, we are still leaders. But now, then it won't be leaders in Dharma. It will be more of Adharma. So the social situation is being molded by all of us. We often have questions. Where is this world going? What is happening? Why is it like this? And then there is one person which is very easy to blame. And there is a God. Why is it? But with a little bit of awareness and the thinking process, we realize that actually it is you and I, through our prarabdha that we collectively brought, each one of us have given a blueprint for this world. And my few dots, your few dots, and all the dots put together is the world that we are experiencing. So the next point would be look at the individuals. And once we do, we realize that actually the restlessness or peacefulness is all sum total of our state of mind. And now where is our restlessness coming from? Because if we honestly look at ourselves, there will be greater or lesser degree of it that we all experience, isn't it? So there are basically three aspects that bring restlessness to our lives. One is the most obvious, it's our body. When the health is not doing so great, when we have to go for MRI or some other test, you know what happens, isn't it? And when the tests are being done and we're waiting for the results, isn't it? It is, why is it? Because we are so identified with this body. Nirvana Shatkam was so beautifully chanted. When again and again it says, I am not that. But for as long as we identify with the body, either we're running after its comforts, or we are worried about the condition. Yesterday we had a workshop in our ashram on diabetes. Usually we try and we pray for those workshops to somehow be attended by people. I tell you, with diabetes, we didn't need to pray, we didn't need to advertise. The attendance was more than we expected. Because we do care, and if you have a meditation retreat, there will be slightly different number of people that will come. And it will be like this for all of us, isn't it? But the degree of identification that we carry with this body is different. Once we realize, and the sages over the centuries also carried the body, and actually they carried it for us, so they can guide us, they could guide us on the path to beyond the body attachments. But their relationship with the body was different, is different. Seeing the body as a tool to live the life of Dharma and finally get freedom from all attachments, bodily and otherwise. The other aspect is our emotions. There are some emotions that bring peace, serenity, joy, and actually a sense of fulfillment. There would be love, there would be compassion, there would be gratitude. When those emotions fill our hearts, there is a sense of fulfillment. But there are other emotions, such as fear, such as anger, such as jealousy, hatred. I don't need to say anymore because it will sound a little bit too pessimistic. But we know that there is a whole gamut of those emotions. And what do they bring into our lives? What do they bring into our heart? We all know. And then, yet another aspect, the aspect of relationships. I just did mention the relationship with the body. And actually, the relationship with the body sets the whole scheme of aspect of all our relations. Because then relationships, if we look at it, if I'm identified with my body, when I look at the world, what do I perceive? What do I see? I, me, mine and not mine. Isn't it? So then the whole spectrum of divisions is being created. But when we look from another aspect, from the aspect of self-knowledge, when I see the self in me is the self everywhere. When I look around the world and see all its aspects, including the changing seasons, and we are now looking and waiting for the seasons to change, for the birds and the trees, and the beauty and the dynamics of the world. What do we see? What do the sages, what do the Shastras are declaring? The self in me is the self everywhere. So with this understanding, with this guiding thought, when I look at the world, I see as the vibhuti of the Lord. I focus on the divine presence, the unifying presence, and then I'm able to look at the world. I'm able to look at other beings which are around. And with that thought, I have an opportunity to divinize my thoughts and see others as I see myself. You know, when we look at our bodies, you know, my right hand, my left leg, my neck, and the rest of it, I consider it as myself. So there would not be any anonymity. There would be no favors being offered to a tongue or liver. I see it all as one whole, isn't it? So if I look at others as myself, but there is a catch-22 in it. Because when we do this, then we want everybody to be just like myself. And that creates problems. First problem, I personally see, it would be very, very boring if we were all the same. And luckily it's not possible. But when we try to mold people to our liking, our likes and dislikes, well, I mean, it looks like all of you are married. You try to change your husband, you try to change your wife, and then you try your children. And you have the experience, I don't. Oh. So we know that it's really, first of all, it's not possible. And second of all, it would definitely not lead us to interdependence. So see everybody as the self, but don't try to make them like yourself. The other aspect is, if we look from this perspective, then there is no separation. There is togetherness. And that togetherness will drive us closer and closer to the harmony, to the mutual harmony. And if we find that harmony in our personal lives, it will spread further into the social life and even the bigger picture. The mutual respect. Talking about nature, the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita is pointing it out so beautifully that if you and I invoke, respect nature, the nature in turns will bless us. The devas will bless us from all directions. So all we need to do is to appreciate nature. And we're all a part of nature. Ramana Maharishi says it so beautifully, that actually the highest worship is the service to the world, done with the humility and devotion to the higher. And with this attitude, when we look at the world, we have the opportunity to embrace and to gain the energy which is already inherent in the universe and each and every one of us, the energy of Dharma that sustains and upholds the whole entire universe, including all of us. But now how do we do it? The other aspect of our restlessness is definitely more on the relationships. So when we stop looking at the world from the different angles and creating divisions, then one thing definitely happens. We start seeing the totality, we see the unity all around. But seeing it and practicing it sometimes doesn't go together. So if we follow the scriptures, from the action standpoint, if we do all our actions based on the kartavya karma, the duties, and then what we do those duties. If we don't do our duties, we know what happens. The restlessness comes. The best examples are children. At the end of the day, you see the child restless and trying to do something. Say, what happened? Mom, I can't go to school tomorrow. Why? Because I didn't do my homework. It applies to all of us, isn't it? So do our duties and avoid kamya karma, the prohibited actions. Because when we do something wrong, we also know what happens. But the third aspect would be performing the duties, but with the attitude of devotion. That's when we give ourselves an opportunity, a chance to divinize our life, to divinize our actions, to divinize our emotions, and to divinize our outlook on the world. But still, even if we do, and we find it in the world everywhere, we do only kartavya karma, only in the dedication to the Lord. And still there is a crack from time to time. I've been doing so much for this organization, and look where I am. Am I really properly acknowledged? It happens, isn't it? This happens at home also. 3 meals I'm cooking, and nobody says thank you. After 50 years, what to say? But anyway, this is my thing. So we want to be appreciated. Why? Because we're doing even the noble actions, and we dedicate it to the Lord. But still, what we want to claim for ourselves is karma phala, the results of action. Isn't it? On a big scale and in a small scale. We still are being attached to the results of action. And that's the source of immense anxiety and restlessness. So when we offer the action to the Lord, then results automatically become His, isn't it? So renouncing the karma phala is the final touch to our everyday life. If we totally renounce it, then we live the life of prasadam. Whatever comes, I do my sincere duties, I do them sincerely. I offer it to the Lord. And now, whatever comes, I accept as the prasadam. Sometimes it will be sweeter, sometimes not so sweet, but still it's a prasad. And with this attitude, if we live, our restlessness basically will be taken care of. And we will add to it the vision, because these are words, the scriptures are beautifully pointing out those goals, pointing out the way. But now, to put it into practice, what we really need the most is the vision. And to see The small vision divides us to fat and skinny, tall and short, and black and white and pink and all kinds of colors, and Christians and non-Christians and the whole scheme. And we know what happens. The restlessness has to happen. There is no other way. Now the large vision unites. The differences are blending. They're blending together. And sorry. And we are able to see the world from the bigger and bigger picture, from the higher and higher perspective. But that also can crack. It can also crash. And even when we try, the differences will come. Because my likes and dislikes, your likes and dislikes will never be the same. And this is what divides us. So the third aspect is the supreme vision. The vision of oneness. The self in me is the self everywhere. And from that vision that guides our actions, that guides our thoughts, that gathers all our emotions towards basic two emotions of love and gratitude. They alone can bring everlasting happiness. Because happiness and peace actually are synonymous. When we really look at it, what does the peace bring? Why do we all want peace? And why do we want it? Because the peace by itself brings us happiness, brings prosperity, and brings creativity. And the great thoughts of our masters, the great ideas, were born out of creativity. We all know when the mind is agitated, either we know how to calm ourselves and we sit down and suddenly the answer comes. And if we can't do it ourselves, what do? We go to somebody who at this point is not involved in the restlessness of the mind. And then the answers will come. But the true answers really come only. The true answers, I'm saying purposely true, the true answers based on truth. Truth of our true being, which is the self, the infinite, all-pervading truth. And where the restlessness comes from untruth. So Satyam is truth, Asatyam is falsehood. So that's why we all gather in places like this. We all gather around spiritual masters, guides, to be introduced, to be guided on that path, so we can leave the falsehood, focus on the truth, and then the peace would be easily attainable and a great goal for all of us to reach, because it is the goal of human life. And as everybody here is aware of it, arise, awake, and we know the rest. So it's all in our hands. We can, and actually we must, invoke the peace right in our hearts. It's not very, very far. It is in the depth of our hearts. And based on a spiritual truth, focus on it. And then we'll see that the world changes. The world will change. Maybe not in a great way. Not in a great wave either, but it will change. I'll just share with you, I think 2 more minutes. As we travel, and Swamiji has similar experiences, when we travel around, we stay in people's homes. And of course there is a family setup that sometimes gets slightly changed. And one day I was in US and I was giving a bedroom of a teenager, so I had opportunity to read all the stuff on the walls, and then something happened, and the mother said, Swamiji, you know what, something happened, I don't remember what it was, I have to go and take care of it, but I'll be back soon. And this little boy, he was maybe 6, 7 years old, he's so fond of you. Can you please look at him for some time? Look at him. So here I am trying to do something. 6 years old are very entertaining, they are wonderful, but they have such an energy and I don't have it anymore. So I gave him one project. Before I looked at my papers, the project was over, another project was over. So then I thought, oh, let me be smart. There was a newspaper then, and there was an advertisement for men's suits. So I thought, okay, now this will take him some time. So I've cut it into pieces, and I said, you know what, I muddled it all together. I said, now you know what you do? You just put this picture together, and when you finish, you come home. I went to my computer. A few minutes later, that fellow was back. I said, no, did you finish your project? Yeah. I said, how? It would have taken me a day and a half. I tore it in such a way that it would have been difficult. And he said, no, I've done it. I said, well, show it to me. He showed it to me, it was all done. And I said, a little genius, how did you do it? And he said, Swamiji, you know what? I looked, and it was there. But what I really enjoyed, when I turned that picture around, on the other side, there was a picture of the world. So when he was putting that person together, person and his suits, on the other side, what did he discover? That he put together the whole world that was all torn into pieces by me. I didn't know, but the young child figured it out. So actually the moral of the story is, when we put our pieces, our life together, the world stops being pieces. It's going to be a wonderful, peaceful environment for all of us to be, to live, and to enjoy. And aim on a smooth way to the discovery of the ultimate goal, which is supreme Shanti, the peace beyond all understanding. So that's why we are all here. And I just shared a few thoughts with you, and if you have some questions, we will be happy to continue. Thank you very much for having me. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and I hope that this will start a mutual exchange from both sides, and thank you so much for having me here. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me invite questions then. If you have some questions, for few minutes you can spare. I think no one is having questions because it was so clear. It was really very nice and very practical to how to set the world right is to set yourself right and the world becomes right. That was the final and very fantastic message to have peace in the world. Before we have the formal thanks and announcement, I'd like to present you as a token a small book for your coming on a Sunday, spending your time and sharing your thoughts so valuable.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks.